Hello.
No, then, mate, you all right?
I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, yeah, good. Cheers, yeah. Cheers for jumping on.
No worries. My pleasure.
Good. I actually spoke to your brother a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago.
All right. Did you? Was it
Did
good?
a Yeah, did a radio show with him, so he got him to pick his favorite songs of the 2000s, which was good.
Right. Right. Yeah. What were his favorites?
Um, Flaming Lips were in there, The
All right.
Walkman.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you realize it's a banger? Love
Yeah, he
that.
said there was a story about being at a wedding or something about it.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, some good stuff. Are you based in Halifax as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like Rick was saying, kind of relationships and stuff kept him in Yorkshire. Was it similar for you?
Um. Yeah. Kind of. I mean, like I love it up here. I did move down to London for a bit. But then when I met my wife, like at the first ever sort of date we went on, I said, I wanna move. When I meet the right woman, I want to move back up north and have babies.
Oh, okay,
So
fair enough.
yeah, it didn't just come out like that. She was like all
Good first
she
date shot. Yeah.
she was like all quite. She was being quite bolshy. She was like she came to me and she said, I want to travel the world. I want to like go traveling for a year. And if you're not up for that, then there's no point. And I said, well, all right, I'll do that. If afterwards, we can move up north and have babies, and we did it. We did both of those things. We said it on the first date, and then we ended up doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did he do that at a similar time to Rick, like have a family?
No, no, I'm a much older dad than he is. He did all this around the time of our first album. Mike. His kids are both in their 20s now. Mine are 7 and 5. Sorry, 7 and 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had a chat. It was funny because he was like, he mentioned about Ella, his daughter,
Yeah.
and I realised that I interviewed her last summer, but I didn't know the
Oh,
connection.
she's amazing, man.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
amazing. She's like uh, the most talented. Um, like when we all get together at a family get together. Obviously, like me and our Rick are like you know pretty famous rock stars, but when we're all together, she's by far the most charismatic person in the room. Like, she's just really got something, I think, that's really special, and um, I'm delighted that it's all starting to happen for her. She's it's so richly deserved.
No, yeah, it's a pleasure to speak to her. He's at a gig she was doing with Kaiser Chiefs, like a big thing in Leeds,
Yeah,
and a few other bands as well. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah, for anyone listening, that's Ella spelled Ellur. Is that a bit of a phonetic Yorkshire thing, I
yeah, yeah, yeah. She won't like. It's how she says Ella, like Ella. You know,
think?
like I love that. It's just exactly completely her.
No,
She's a
yes.
bit like a sort of Yorkshire version of Sam Fender, I think, for anyone who hasn't been introduced to her yet. She's sort of got a real working class, authentic voice. Her lyrics are amazing. Um, yeah, and her voice is wonderful. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. All right, mate. Well, yeah, I'll have a bit of dig into the past kind of thing, if you're up for
okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
it. But yeah, it's interesting talking to Rick. He kind of said you were the one that had the drive and the belief in the early days, really. Would you say that was true?
Yeah, right at the beginning, yeah. I was pretty bloody minded. Richard's very, very determined, though. I never feel when push comes to shove, when it comes to the crunch, I never feel any slack from him. Like in the dying moments with the song where, holding on to it for an inch longer just makes it that 10% better or 1% better, he's right there as well, like he's very, he's like, his commitment is like, feels as strong as mine. And it's pretty rare. I'm a really driven son of a bitch, like I am. I mean, Um, that's probably my superpower. Like, I don't, like my voice. I don't think my voice is that special. When we started out, I couldn't even play guitar, let alone write songs. I just, it's just something I felt I needed to do, um, and so yeah, just sheer bloody-minded determination and ignorance. Just throwing up for that at anything, and I think wherever it is will crumble into submission.
Where does that come from, do you think?
Well, I have no idea. Um, I mean, you know, I can have a go. Say like some deep-rooted need for um, you know, it gives me a sense of purpose. Like it makes me feel um, worthwhile. Um, and I think a lot of people, you know, the joke is, yeah, there's a gaping hole in my soul that only being an artist can plug. And I'm so driven to be, this artist, songwriter, singer, because there's something badly missing. Like my mum didn't love me enough, or my mum loved me too much, or some shit like that. But the truth is, I'm just happiest when I'm creating, being creative, and I don't know if that's a personality flaw or a feature. Um, I mean, I suppose it's a flaw if you want my undivided attention in the real world. So like, if you've got two young kids and you want someone who's present to actually look after them, um, that has definitely caused difficulties with me and my wife in the past, but that's all been sorted out. Now I'm up every morning taking them to school. I put them to bed every single night. I'm like, and I'm there. Basically, if either of my kids says to me, "Dad, can you just blah blah blah," unless what I'm doing is a matter of life and death, I stop whatever I'm doing and give them some attention. Um,
Yeah, yeah. We a bit of a perfect, like obviously with being creative, you can be like a bit of a perfectionist, like you focus on the things that go wrong, maybe. But I don't know.
um, yes and no. Like, there's a good mixture there with me and Rick in the sense that, like, for me, if the vibe is there, then I'm happy. So right at the beginning of the process, I'm sort of like, no, we're done now. This has got the vibe. Let's move on. Because getting the feeling right on a song is one of the most elusive, slippery things to do. You can do a perfect vocal take. You can you know get a perfectly in time drums and all the rest of it. You put it all together, and at the end, it just feels lifeless and doesn't have a vibe. And you can do something that's got loads of mistakes in it and mess, and it just feels great. And I much prefer that. And so we get those, and then Richard goes away and does overdubs and works with the rest of the band and gets it sounding really good. And then I come back at the end, and quite often I'll say, hang on a minute, this has lost the vibe. Or this earlier version had a better vibe, or whatever. And then at the very, very end, I get in with the like final brushwork and do the tiniest tweaks. And usually at that point, Richard's like, no one on earth apart from you is gonna tell the difference between what it was like before you got hold of it and those tweaks. But I'm happy, so I'm sort of really at the beginning and right at the end, and Rick does all the sort of bulk of the work in the middle. Is probably the best way to describe that process.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and he was saying that like you were heavily involved in production from early on, really. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like in terms of the songwriting, like Rick or Mick, sometimes Mike or Steve, but generally Mick, mostly Rick, um, will send me ideas, and then I will sort of sing over the top. And when I get something that I think is really good, or I get a list of like a dozen or so, I then get together with Mick and Rick, and we do like acoustic versions and work it out. And I'm writing all the time. I'm writing new lyrics, new melodies, new ideas all the time around that vibe that we've created. And then when we think as the three of us that we've got something really good, we send like a sort of an acoustic demo version to Mike and Steve to have a run at drums and bass and stuff and see what they can get. And you know they'll have 2 or 3 runs at that. Then we think, oh, this is coming together. Let's get together now. When we've got sort of a dozen or so of songs that have been through that process, we get together as a band and just do like 3 a day, like literally just laying them down. And that means we can do an album. Yeah, from the writing of an album will take a year or more, but the actual recording of the backing tracks and getting the sort of the vibe down, we can get that done in a couple of weeks now. And that means that you catch all that like live feel that we've got, because we're a great live band, and we don't always capture that on record, but we are doing now, I think, and that's great.
Yeah, but even like with the albums in the 90s and stuff, you would be involved in the production quite heavily rather than just letting a producer take over.
Yeah, I mean, our first album, we went through loads of different producers. Like we started off with Johnny Dollar, who was a lovely guy, rest his soul. And we tried like Andy Wallace, who's the guy who famously mixed Nevermind by Nirvana, among many others. Great mixer, but it didn't really work for us. And then people like Chris Potter, um, Steve Osborne. We tried loads. We did loads. We worked with loads of different people, and in the end, we ended up recording most of the album with a local guy called David Cretfield, who we did the demos with, and sort of producing ourselves. And then at the end, we needed someone to mix it, and we tried Ott a little bit, the guy who mixed our All You Good Good People first ever single that we did on Fierce Panda. That didn't really work. It was great on the All You Good Good People, but on some of the other tracks it wasn't really working. It sounded a bit generic. And then we tried Youth, and Youth has gone on to become one of my favourite people on the planet. I absolutely love the guy. He's like a brother. I mean, I haven't seen him for a couple of years, but whenever I see him, we just plug straight back in and pick up where we left off. He's one of those like kindred spirits, really. I'm quite an introvert, and I don't have many mates, but he's someone that I really value. So
Yeah.
in terms of producing ourselves, yeah, I mean, we've got strong opinions, but when we work with someone like Youth, he's very much the producer. He's like Superman, and we are like the various different other people from the Marvel universe. Together, we can almost beat him, but he's so powerful as a presence in the studio. But that really works. I mean, our 3 number 1 albums were all produced by him, so. And he's definitely someone who I'd consider working with again in the future. I mean, Rick is doing such a good job at the moment. It doesn't really feel like there's a need. But I think at some stage, if we ever feel like we need to kick up the arse or things are going stale, which they're nowhere, it's the opposite of stale at the moment. Then yeah, I'd definitely get in touch with him again. I'd love to work with him again.
Yeah, I think Rick said was he speeding up the songs a bit or something, amongst other things,
Oh
like you said.
man, yeah, fucking don't get me started. Yeah, he did. I was like, I really like, each album that we did with them, there's always something like on the on Out of Nothing, everything just felt too fast for me. Like I was up all night, like worrying about it, and then on This New Day, all the keys all felt too high, so I was like really straining to sing them, and there was always something. He'd always come at me with something that was just a constant fucking battle. But those albums are great. I mean, I love Out of Nothing. This New Day could have been better, but Out of Nothing's a fantastic album. I'm massively proud of that. So it works.
Yeah, yeah. And Rick said, it wasn't like, in terms of songwriting early on, it wasn't like a spark straight away. Like you had to work quite hard at it, really. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I mean, we didn't have any talent to begin with, like at all. I mean, I couldn't sing, I can't play. I mean, some people would say I can't still, fair enough. We didn't know what in tune meant. We didn't, in terms of our instruments, like we didn't even have six strings on the guitar because we couldn't afford the strings. So we had like four strings, and we just tightened them. We didn't know that there was a special E, A, D, G, B, E. We didn't know that there was supposed to, I didn't know that was a thing. So just turn the distortion up on the amp so it doesn't matter and wail over the top of a U2 record. Bono's voice is way higher than my register, so it's like fucking straining to try and reach the notes in like songs like Pride and Bad and all that. And I mean, we didn't have any discernible talent really. It wasn't really till I wrote a song called Retread that Richard spotted on the B side of a tape that things started to really click. And then it all started to come into place. Then we spent like 6-7 years trying to discover what we had to offer really. And then it was with Retread that I really sort of found not just my vocal voice but my lyrical voice and our the embrace that everybody knows now. It was born really.
And were those songs always kind of originated on acoustic guitar? Like, how did it work?
Um, yeah, to begin, yeah. I mean, what we were doing before Retread was we'd just like write loops as a band, like just jam, and I would sort of sing over the top, like Joy Division or Bonnie Man or that sort of style. Quite dozy, I suppose. And then I just started learning acoustic guitar, and I wrote a song called Overflowing, which I guess was the first one. Well, it wasn't even 4 real chords. It was like on the 4th fret, and I just found a bit that sounded nice. Didn't even know what chords were. And I think all it is like a C on the 4th fret. I think that's all it is, and then it's not complicated, but it for the first time the guitar sounded like it was making a nice noise. Like learning acoustic guitar, I wrote all those, most of the ballads on the first album, and some of the ones on the second album, like I Had a Time and I Love It Takes, Drawn from Memory, stuff like that. I can't deny that those are fucking good songs. So, I'm not going to say I don't have talent, but I didn't in the very beginning. Somewhere along the line, the dam, I kept banging my head against the wall, and eventually the dam opened and flooded. The ideas came pouring out.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you often hear that, don't you? Like prolific songwriters, I think even like Noel Gallagher says, he didn't know what chords were, just go with what sounds good.
Yeah,
So I think it's kind of like it's quite inspirational for any up and coming musicians. I think don't focus too much on like the technical side of things. I don't know.
no. Just it's all about the song. I think that now is the most exciting time to be an artist because you can make a video on your phone now, and the quality is better than the videos we were making for 100 grand in the 90s. So it's free, and you can record yourself on GarageBand. And again, the quality is better than the Neve desks and the SLRs and or wherever it's SSL. In Olympic or Abbey Road, the quality is better, and you've got more control over it, and you're not spending 1,500 quid a day worrying. So you're going to capture something that's intimate and real, and then you've got the internet where you can reach your audience. You can be you. Don't try and pander. Even Taylor Swift, who's the most popular artist, sold millions, still probably has like 7 billion people who think her music's shite, She's just found a few million that really like it, you know?
No,
So
fair
all you
point. Yeah.
have to do really is find like, 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 people that like your stuff. And then they all get together on the internet and suddenly you've got a living, so you can be as idiosyncratic and as odd and as wonderful as you want to be. And um, that's an amazingly empowering thing for an artist. Back in my day, there were a lot more gatekeepers, and now, yeah, I know there's different gatekeepers and the algorithm and the bullshit, and I know there's new challenges, but from that point of view, it's never been more exciting. I think.
Yeah, is it quite interesting watching Ella in that way, going on a bit of a different journey to you guys?
Yeah, 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 it is. And But it's working. I mean, radio's all over her, and everyone really likes it, and the audience is getting bigger, and um, but she's having to do it differently. She's having to play the social media game a little bit, and the social media wasn't even around when we started. Um, I mean, we're just now learning about social media, and literally this week I've been talking about social media pretty much for the first ever time. Really, like normally we have someone who'll do that for us, and they still do, but we're getting more involved this time around. So.
Yeah, yeah. But how much of a distraction do you think that would have been back in the day when you're trying to build momentum or
Well,
get the
my
songwriting down?
my advice would be to any new artist is to not let that be a distraction, because that's too it's too easy to procrastinate and not do what you're supposed to be doing. Which is writing those fucking songs, which is the hard part of it.
No, yeah, definitely, yeah. And we talk a lot about on the podcast, talk a lot about, sorry, kind of the scenes that would emerge, like mainly in the 2000s. But it's interesting with you guys. Obviously, you were a bit before, and Rick was kind of saying you came after Britpop. You didn't want to associate with Britpop. You're kind of somewhere in the middle, really, or somewhere after that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, we were sort of at the back end, I guess. Um, we were I always really liked loads of American bands. So if you're asking me, I always remember like the Britpop bands to like. It was like, the Beatles, the Stones, the Faces, the Who, the Pistols, and Kinks or whatever. And there's no mention of like all the wonderful like Tamla Motown stuff or the Beach Boys or you know Flaming Lips even or Pavement or REM. There's like one load. It's Elvis. Jesus. It's like America is like I want to say better, but every bit as good. I think at doing this. As we are, and to just go, oh no, American stuff's rubbish and it's all about Britain, just felt a bit parochial, not parochial, but um,
Reductive kind of thing, yeah.
so yeah, I think for me, like, I sort of didn't feel an affinity in that way, and also there was a lot of irony, like, and irony's all right, when it's kind of when it's you know, a little bit of irony, like they use it as a sort of like uh, what's it called? Salt and
Seasoning.
pepper seasoning, yeah, lightly seasoned, but I don't want it as the main dish, you know. And I just felt like, all these people who are sort of, trying to distance themselves from what they were singing about, like singing from the heart and being passionate and being real and authentic were like the anathema to being what they were trying to be, which was some clever, cerebral. Just didn't. None of it chimed with me. Um, obviously, like I thought Oasis were great. Their first album was really good. Second album really good. Um, but then, like they were sort of going a bit off the boil, and when we came out, their third album, I didn't really love. I thought it was all right, but not amazing. Um, and so yeah, it was like it felt like we were sort of and the music press, to be fair, like really championed us. It was like we were the next new thing, and everything else was going to get swept out of the way and all that. And that was really exciting. We were the coolest band in the world for about 6 months, and then it moved on. And I think like either Gomez or um, Placebo or someone else was next, and then the Strokes, and then the line of bands. We were that band. The Overton window or wherever it is was on us for a bit, and then it moved on. Um, and that was really exciting. So yeah, I've forgotten what your question was, but
I
yeah,
guess it's just like whether you felt like you fit in a scene or not, but I guess it sounds like you're doing your own thing, really.
yeah, we've always done our own thing, and um, I think there's been a lot of big bands that have come along that have been inspired by what we've done and gone on to do really well. Um, and that's great. That's wonderful. But we've always just done what we do, and the funny thing, Richard said this the other day. It's like we're always trying to do something new. We think that we've like reinvented the wheel on this album. But everybody says it sounds like a typical Embrace, like it's like classic Embrace. We're like, what? We we think it's completely new stuff. Like, so I guess it's sort of in our DNA, that they're like just like we can't not sound like Embrace when we play, which is a great thing because in the beginning we really didn't know who we were at all, and now our identity is just kind of innate. Now it's kind of no matter what we do, it sounds like Embrace doing that thing. Um, which I guess, it's a little bit like Jack Nicholson, isn't it? Like he can play any character, but he's always fucking Jack Nicholson, isn't he? You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. We can sort of do any style, but we're always going to be Embrace. And
Yeah,
people
yeah.
love that. And I'm proud of it. I'm pleased with it. So
No, yeah, I was saying to Rick, it must be ace when you're selling out things like Peace Hall and stuff. Great venues like that.
yeah, I mean, Peace Hall is like when we first got asked if we wanted to do that, I know how big the Pete's Hall is. I've been there loads of times shopping. And I'm like, what? Like, no way. It's like 6,500 people or whatever it is, and um, I mean, Halifax doesn't have that many people in it, almost. So it seems like, what's like every single person in Halifax is gonna come, what, grandmas and granddads as well. Like, what the fuck? So we were like, no, like initially really nervous, thinking we were sort of saying, as long as we get like 2 or 3 thousand in there, it'll be a good gig. And then it sold out. We were like, fuck, what? And then we did it a second time, and that sold out. And then this third one sold out faster than both of them. It was like this was sold out at Christmas, which is mental. And like they wanted to extend the capacity. They wrote to the council asking if they could extend it, but unfortunately got turned down. So could have got even more people in there. I mean, it seems like there's a bit of a renaissance around the band. Like this tour is selling better than the last tour, and that was selling better than the tour before that. It seems like we're on the up again. Um, and yeah, it's which is amazing. I mean, but I think our new stuff is really good, so I think yeah, we deserve it. Fucking we like a lot of bands from the 90s and noughties. Their best albums are their first album or their second album, um, and that I mean that quite often happens. Like that happens with most artists. Is their first album is their best, and then they spend the rest of their career trying to do better. Um, but I don't know what it is, but like we're not like that. Like our first album is great, but our fourth album is really good, and this album is really good. We sort of I think it's because I'm a really slow learner, and like whereas most people have like their first love and their first heartbreak and all that stuff, and that's all the stuff that you use when you create this, which is why most young people create the best rock and roll because they're going through all that shit at the beginning, and then after that you're all jaded and old and I'm a slow learner, so I'm still having epiphanies as a 55-year-old that like most people have gone through all that shit in their 20s and 30s, you know. So I'm like, I'm perpetually like young, you know, mentally at least, and you know, you know, the last three albums are all stuff that I've learned about life that most people already know, you know, but I've had a massive like I've thrown a fucking atomic bomb into my life and just made me massively creative, you know. Um, and so, yeah, I feel like I'm every bit as near to the fire of like wherever it is that gives you the good stuff when you're a writer now as I have been at any point in my life since maybe before even the first album, you know. So, um, and if anything, even more urgent now because I'm older now and I realise that the clock is ticking. So like I wanna fucking everything's more like more urgent, more exciting, more you know, more. I feel more passionate, more like more to prove. You know, all that stuff that you had that drives you when you're young. I've got even more now that I'm older. You know, so maybe that's what it is. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, obviously, being a full-time musician from a young age, you obviously have a different, life experience to other people. Is that what you
Oh
mean? You
yeah,
kind of
yeah. It's a real excuse
different
to like live
progression.
your life in the clouds, man. But like getting married and having two young kids is a real fast way of pulling you back into the here and now because like kids don't can't even conceive of what's going to happen in 3 seconds, let alone 3 weeks or 3 months. They want you right here, right now, and they don't give a shit about what you've got going on. It's all about what they've got going on, you know. Um, you know, you could be on the phone to like defusing a bomb that's going to go, an atomic bomb that's going to go off in, you know, in London town or something, and your kid is still going, no, come here, I need my ass wiping, all right, I need, you know, I want a chocolate or you know whatever it is they want, and you know that's the main thing that matters. So you've got to get with their program really quick.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. Yeah. And Rick was saying, I was asking him about the lifestyle really now. Obviously, kind of hear about those 90s bands living their rock and roll lifestyle, but he kind of said he stayed away from that a bit. He's a bit wary of it. Were you the same?
Who stayed away from the rock and roll lifestyle?
Your brother, sorry, in the early days.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he was married, so you know, I was single for a lot of it, and living in London. Um, but I've never really been into drugs or anything like that. If that's what you mean, like, um, but I definitely went out and I had fun. You know, um,
Yeah, it's just, I guess, you know, it's one of those professions where no one's telling you that, having a beer at 10 a.m. is not a bad idea, kind of thing. Or
yeah,
not a good
yeah.
idea, rather.
I've never had that issue either. I've never been an alcoholic or been addicted to anything. Um, so that's really fortunate. But I mean, I have. I mean, you know, I've definitely fallen out of a few nightclubs. You know what I mean? Someone was saying, "Oh, you know, you're not like the Gallaghers in the sense that you know you don't fall out of nightclubs and all that sort of stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I've fallen out of nightclubs, mate. Don't get me wrong. It's just not the most noteworthy thing about me. You know, I suppose it's never something that I've really focused on. You know,
No,
um,
fair enough. Did you have many dealings with the Gallaghers out of interest or anyone like that?
have I what? Sorry."
Do you have much dealings with like the Gallaghers or anyone like that?
Yeah, I met Liam, and he's a really fucking lovely guy. He's like total salt of the earth, sweet guy. Um, I met him met like maybe two or three times, maybe. Like I've been out for drinks with him and stuff. In sort of North London in a bar and stuff, and um, he's a really nice guy. I'd give you an example of that. Like, I remember, like, he was like sort of singing me new Oasis tracks. So it was when it was before Noel left. I think it's like for their fourth or fifth album or something. I can't remember which album. But he was singing in my ear, and he was sounding like John Lennon. I'm like, what's with the fucking John Lennon impression? And he's like, he's the best in the world. I'm like, well, you're pretty fucking good. Just sing like yourself. But like, I don't know why he didn't. You know, he doesn't sing like Liam Gallagher when he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't sing like Liam. You know, like he sort of he's doing more John Lennon. I don't know why he was doing that. But and then I was singing him songs that we'd written and stuff. And then this old lady came up to him, tapped him on the shoulder, and Liam's always got this big guy security like in the distance, you know, and sort of watching everything to make sure, you know, because he can, you know, he could get Larry at any point because he's a fucking megastar, you know. The big security guy sort of comes over and is kind of, you know, and then Liam just got into this chat with this old lady, and this old lady just like was like, my grandson is a massive Oasis fan, and so he went outside with this old lady and started like filming like a video message for this little kid, and he must have been out there for like 15 minutes, just being sweet as fuck, you know. And I think that like sums up who Liam is more than all the tabloid headlines and stuff. He's a really nice, genuine, quite sweet guy, really, um, and yeah, you know, I mean, obviously he can be a cocky fucker. Why not? He's a fucking one of the biggest rock stars on the planet. I would be if I was, you know, if I was playing stadiums every night. Um, but you know, in his heart, he's you can tell he's got a good mum. You know what I mean? You know,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
he's just got that respect. You know, he's not an arsehole at all, and I think that not enough people know that.
Nah, fair play. Yeah. And then your brother was saying you met Pete Doherty last summer or something as well.
Oh yeah, he was at the side of the stage dancing away. That was quite cool. We were playing like good people, and I just saw him at the side of the stage, and he's like fucking giving it and singing along. That was pretty cool because, like, you know, I mean, he's a one-off, and he's an original, and to have respect from someone like that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, during that 2000s period when the likes of Libertines were coming out, were you like, did you notice a shift? Like, were you into to those bands?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it was a really good time to be in indie music. I actually was like, we used to do a club night in London, me and some mates, and so like all those people would go to that, like you know Amy Winehouse and yeah, the Libertines, and you know all those people were sort of frequenting that quite a lot. Um, so yeah, I loved all that. You know, all this sort of like post-stroked British wave of bands. Yeah, I thought they were great.
Yeah, and your brother was saying like around that time, there's a bit of a shift with the record label. I think you had to move on. But he was saying like, obviously the amount of records you sold and stuff. He was saying how he was like selling things off in his house and that. And he's saying basically you like reinvested a lot of the money that you made early on. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, I didn't, you know, I'm not going to spend it on coke and hookers. You know what I mean? So, yeah, when we got dropped by a record company, the record company gave us some money to do a greatest hits, um, and we used that money to build the studio and basically start working on Out of Nothing, just basically backing ourselves. Um, and yeah, we got a new record deal, but if we hadn't, we would have still just carried on, you know. Like our determination knows no end, you know.
No, yeah, fair play, mate.
Everybody in the band is every bit as determined now as I am. I mean, maybe not quite as determined, but you know, they're not far behind because I wouldn't fucking tolerate it. Do you know what I mean? It'd just wind me up if I felt like there was somebody like being slack. Um, and there really isn't, you know. Everyone in the band is really, and they're all massively excited about this new album as well. So everybody's really keen to do everything that they can to, you know, get it out there and oh, we as well. We can't wait to play live. You know, like the
Yeah,
new
yeah.
set is like it's more exciting for me than I can remember. Like maybe since Out of Nothing, like a new album. Because well, like when you're picking a set and you've been going for 30 years, there's a lot of fucking songs to pick, you know what I mean? But there's certain songs you always have to do, like Ashes and Good Good People, and Come Back to What You Know, Gravity, you know, Nature's Law. There's big songs that you always have to do. Um, but then it's like we've been playing those as we've been rehearsing, and then doing the new ones, and it seems to always like go up a little gear when we do a new one, and that doesn't happen very often. Like normally, you're doing your best to sort of keep treading water between the big ones, and it's a little bit of a dip, if I'm being honest. Because you play anything after Good Good People, it's going to be a little bit of a dip. Unless you play All Your Good People and then Ashes and then good night and then that's it. You've done, you know what I mean? But no, definitely like putting in new songs in the set, like Get Out of My Own Way and Coming Home and Stop and stuff. It's just it's been really, really rejuvenating and really exciting.
Yeah, and speaking of Gravity, like I think your brother said, did your dad play a role in introducing you to Chris Martin or something?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. It's funny that because like I just told my dad that I really like the support band, and so he just immediately took it on himself to go and grab him from their dressing room and say, "My son wants to speak to you," and I did. Like I know, like I wasn't thinking of that at all. I was just saying how much I liked him. And then Chris goes, "Oh, your dad came to grab us," and I was like, "Oh, nice to meet you," and we just ended up clicking, um, like I said to you earlier on, I'm a bit of an introvert. I don't have many mates, so um, I've probably got one best friend, and then less than a handful of people I consider to be friends. And Chris is definitely one of them. He's he's a lovely guy, and yeah, my dad, and we just sort of we swapped. It was back just after mobile phones had been invented, so everybody had like 10 different numbers. Like, right, this is my number, this is my girlfriend's number, this is my house number, this is my mum and dad's, this is my manager, this is my tour manager, this is So we'd give each other all our numbers so we could be reached. There's about 8 numbers each, and then yeah, we've just been in touch ever since, and that was about 20. It must be like 26 years ago now. So.
Yeah. But your brother was saying like it wasn't, a foregone conclusion that you take that song you weren't sure about taking it at first or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So the Gravity story actually starts on Angelina Jolie's spaceship. So so um, we were in I think it's like Shepperton Studios or Pinewood Studios or one of those studios just outside London. Um, and Gwyneth was with Jude Law filming pickups for a film called Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. Um, and me and Chris were in the parking lot on this massive model of Angelina Jolie's spaceship. Um, Angelina Jolie's also in that film, and she has a spaceship. Um, and we were sat there with an acoustic guitar playing each other's songs, and I played him Ashes, and he was really blown away by it. Um, and then he played me Gravity, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was amazing. That like one of the best things they've ever done. Um, up there with Scientist and Fix You has been like another big, big play ballad. And then a few months later, he rang me up out of the blue. Like I would usually ring him late at night because he lives in LA or lived in LA back then, and I could ring him at like 3 in the morning over here, and it would be a civilized time in LA. And so if I got an idea in the middle of the night, I wasn't waking anyone up. I could just ring him, and he'd sort of give me advice or say what he thought or whatever. But he rang me and he was like, "Danny, I need to speak to you." And I was like, sounded serious. I was like, "I hope he's all right." And then Gwyneth was in the background going, "Go on, ask him, ask him, ask him." And I was like, "Whoa, what are they, what's this? Like, what are you asking me?" You know. Um, And he said, well, you know Gravity? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, do you want to have it? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, I know you really like it as a song, and we just think it sounds too much like Embrace for us to use. So I thought, well, why don't you have it? Do you want it? And I sort of, in my head, I thought, because we were just right at the end of doing Out of Nothing, and we knew what all the singles were, like Ashes, Someday, Glorious Day, and Look As You Are were going to be the singles. And I sort of thought, I don't want the biggest rock star on the planet to overshadow all our work, so I was like, initially I was a bit reluctant, but then I had a word with myself. Like, I was like, he's the biggest rock star in the world, and he's offering you an amazing song. What are you doing? Say yes, you prick. So I think I ended the conversation saying, "Well, we'll give it a go and we'll see if it works out. And if it works, then that will be, And also, thank you. What a lovely thing to do. And so then I went to the rest of the band, and they all had exactly the same thought process. What? No fucking way. We don't want some rock star overshadowing our album. We've worked for ages on this. We know what the single, but exactly the same thought process. There's that thing in there where they film from above, 1,000 prisoners going into a cell, and then everybody takes, and then they overlap it, and everybody takes exactly the same journey. Like, every human being goes in, looks out the window, sits on the bed, comes back, checks the door's really locked, and then goes and sits back down again. They've showed like 1,000 people, and they all do exactly that. And I think human beings are so, like, the way that our brains work is so similar in a lot of ways. So everybody in the band all went through that same thought process that I had, where it's like, no, fuck off, and then, hang on a minute, he is the biggest, yeah, we should definitely give it a go. So they all had that thought process, and I got to watch them have it. And then, yeah, we gave it a go, and obviously, like, it worked out really well. But the irony there is we were talking about youth made everything too fast. Well, I was constantly ringing Chris in the middle of the night saying, keep in, this sounds too fast, don't you think? And I'd play at him, and he'd go, no, man, that sounds really definitive. It's amazing. It gives it a confidence that he didn't have on acoustic guitar. Like, what are you doing? He's making you a definitive album. Like, I was like, Ashes, it should be 138, not 140. He wants to do 142, like, BPM. I'm like, what? Well, do it 142 then. Like, what are you playing at? Go. It's your producer, trust him, blah, blah. So then Chris, when I played him Gravity, he's like, is this the finished version? I was like, yeah. He goes, is it a bit fast? It's like, what the fuck? So I'm not sure if he I said to him, like, do you like it? And he's like, oh, no, I love it. It's great. It's like, has it got enough bass? So he was like, in like, Chris from Coldplay mode, because it was his song, it's like his baby, and he wants to make sure all the sort of anal OCD tweaks that I do, he wanted to get it right in his Coldplay mind as well, And Coldplay songs are generally a lot warmer and actually a little bit slower than Embrace stuff. So for it to sort of work in his bones, it needed to be both of those things. But Gwyneth was there, and she was like, no, Chris, this is amazing. This is exactly what this song needs. I can imagine this all over the radio. It's like, great, Danny, well done. So she was really supportive, and she was right. It was all over the radio, like it was. It really helped, sort of kickstart the sort of second wave of our career, really.
Yeah, you ever played it? You ever played it live together or anything?
No, we haven't, but I went to see them at Hull last year, and he did it live on stage for me. I was in the
Oh,
audience.
really?
Yeah. If you look, you'll find like this on our Facebook. I did a video of it. But yeah, he dedicated it to us and did this big long dedication, and then he did Gravity. And I actually sang along with him, but like we sing different words because I think he makes the words up as he's going along. Because in his mind, it's never really been a finished song. But either that or I changed the words when we did our version. But they're different words, so I think if we did do a duet, but we'd have to decide which version we were doing because they are different, but yeah, I've sung with Chris a lot, like privately. Like whenever I'll quite often I'll sing one of our songs, a new one, and he will like sing along and just like do like melodies over the top, um, and uh, and that's a really like amazing thing. He's just so good technically that he can just immediately pick up your melody and sing a harmony, which makes his voice, his harmony, makes my voice sound so much better to me anyway. And so I remember we were working on for our the album that's called Embrace, but we call it the Tallies album. And I was playing him an early version of a song that ended up not on the album called DNA. And he loved that, and he thought that that should be, a single, and it was a big song. And he did a different version of it in a more major key. And we sort of we sang that together, and that sounded amazing. And I wish I'd recorded that. But yeah, people say Coldplay boring, and it's just like, oh, Chris Martin is boring, and it's like I've met fucking so many people in my 30 years as a rock star. He's one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. He's so charismatic and so like it's just like sparks flying off him. You can sit down and just like watch Chris, and he will just entertain you. Like you can just switch off, and he will just entertain you. You know what I mean? He's such easy company. He's like a little magic box, And I love being around him. I constantly feel. I feel so relaxed being around him because I don't feel the need to, perform or be anything myself because he's so, like, he's got that covered. So.
I always loved his cameo in Extras as well back in the day.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
good that. Sort of taking the piss out of himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
massively. It's hilarious. But obviously, like a World Cup year this year, and it's interesting talking to your brother because he said that one of the biggest regrets he has about Embrace is doing the World Cup song. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, it's a funny one that. Yes and no. Like, we went into it wholeheartedly, and like I'm not a big fan of football, and I've never lied about that. I even when I was being interviewed all day, I was like, I'm not the biggest football fan in the world, but when England are doing well, and I remember like Gary Lineker, Paul Gascoigne, David Beckham, those sort of era, in the '90s and stuff, and when England were doing well, everyone gets excited, and my dad and all the family and all my mates, my mate Dean, and you get excited, and I did get excited, and so when we got asked if we'd do it, initially we said no because we were riding on the crest of a wave. We just released This New Day, which had been biggest ever first week, and off the back of a double platinum album, and we'd had our biggest hit with Nature's Law, just missed the number one slot, um, and so when they asked, we were like, no, this we don't need it. But again, it's like the Chris Martin thing. It was like, well, after we got dropped, after the third album, we used to say no a lot at the beginning. Like on the first album, we'd say no to everything. We said no to Top of the Pops. We said like we were like one of those plumbers where they try and price themselves out of it because they don't really want to do the job. Like, oh, that sink is going to be $3,000 because they can't be asked doing it. Well, we did that with Top of the Pops. We were like, we'll only do Top of the Pops if you get us a full orchestra and we can do it at Abbey Road and you record us doing it live, none of this miming bullshit. And they went, all right. And we were like, oh, fuck. So, we were like quite, And we also turned down TFI Friday about fucking 50 times. You know, they wanted us to do it, and we were like, nah, it's cheesy as fuck not doing that. You know. Um, and then we got dropped. And we're like, all these chances. You know, we got asked to support Aerosmith. We got like, you know, I think they offered us like 100 grand or something. We're like, no, man, that's cheesy. Like Aerosmith, you know. So we were just too cool for school, you know, basically. And then we got dropped. We were like, I wish we'd said yes to some of that stuff because that would have been really fun, you know. And actually, you know, any TV show you can make your own. Look at Nirvana and Jonathan Ross doing territorial pissings. You know, it's one of the best, most rock and roll moments in history. You can make something your own. So like, we should stop fucking saying no and start saying yes. And yeah, we said yeah to Chris Martin, and we just started generally saying yes to everything. And the World Cup was one of them. It's like, because you get to the end of your life, you're going to regret the stuff you didn't do more than the stuff you did. You know, there's that cliche, but I think there's a lot of truth in it. You know, um, and so yeah, we you know, there was reticence there. I'm not going to deny it, but you know, we thought, fuck it, why not? Um, Kaiser Chiefs had turned it down. Or we'd heard that, and so we thought, oh, well, that makes it super cool, then let's fucking do it. You know? So yeah, and then so I went into it with that spirit in mind. Like, I want to write a song that's not from a football fan's perspective, but from just a normal person's perspective, getting swept up in the euphoria when England are doing well. So I went in wholeheartedly, and I think we wrote one of the good ones. You know, that was the thing. Like I think Three Lions is a great one, and the reason it's good is because it's not ironic. Again, that fucking word again. Like there was all these like piss takey songs. You know, ooh football. You know, by these fucking publicly educated pricks taking the piss out of the working classes. You know, people who love football. For some people, it's their fucking life. You can't take the piss out of that. It's just wrong to look down your nose at with the working classes like that. It's just, you know, all that ironic bullshit. And so I went in wholeheartedly, and we wrote a good song, I think. And all the press really loved it. You know, it was on the front cover of all literally every fucking tabloid and broadsheet, from the Times to the Sun to the Mirror. We're on the front cover of everything. Everyone's going, "We've got a good song, lads. Come on, let's do it." But then England didn't do well, so you know, it didn't really work. You know, I think if England had done well, we would have had another Three Lions on our hands. Maybe, you know, I mean, maybe not quite as much as that, but. Because you can tell that Ian Brody genuinely loves football, and that really comes through. But that song was written from a genuine place and in the same spirit. And do I regret doing it? Yeah, no, not really. Would I do it differently now if I got asked again? Yeah, probably. I'd probably, like, older and wiser, you know, I'd sort of, my bullshit detectors would be up a little bit more. Like the FA bullshitted us a lot about they made a lot of promises that they fell back on, and yeah, they were pricks about it, to be honest. But I don't let shit like that spoil my fucking flow. I ride the ups and downs. It's a fucking roller coaster in it, and I'm around 30 years later. Those cunts won't be.
How did they let you down? Sorry, in what way?
Just like they made loads of promises about getting loads of footballers in the video, and you know, giving us tickets to the final, and you know, all sorts of shit like that, and then they just fucking ghosted us, you know, just like dicks.
Ah, fair enough. I think your brother said something like the effect of it afterwards as well as like people, I don't know, maybe like less interested in what you were doing because of the World Cup song. Maybe I'm misquoting him there. I don't know.
Well, maybe yeah. I mean, you could say that like the album that This New Day didn't do as well as Out of Nothing, and you could maybe blame the World Cup for putting um, a little bit of a fly in the ointment, maybe, because you know, if we'd just released what was going to be our next single next, it might have just done, you know, But then I don't think this New Day is as good an album as Out of Nothing. So who knows? It was it was a mixed bag. Let's say that. Um, I have some really fond memories of it as well. Like being at Shepherd's Bush on that little green, being interviewed by Channel 5 doing Keep You Uppies, and then literally just everyone coming towards me. And there's like about 1,000 people from all walks of life all coming with their phones. I'm like, whoa, everybody I didn't have a fucking bodyguard like Liam. I'm like, whoa, everybody stand back. You want a photo of me, but I cannot pose for like 1,000 selfies yet. Like, that's going to be insane. So just take a photo of me from there. And then fucking do a run. But, that was pretty mental. But and a few moments like that were pretty surreal during the World Cup euphoria, where I felt what it was like to be as famous as Robbie Williams for about a month. Because everyone was like recognizing me and shaking my hand and being, the level of famous that I am right now really suits me. Like if I want to be recognized, I can go to places and be recognized, but generally I can kind of, most people who recognize me just kind of smile and wave and are nice. It can get a bit on top for like, people like Chris and that. They need bodyguards and stuff to keep the paparazzi at bay. I'm not at that level. I was for about a month during the World Cup song, but then, that level of I can see why, this is not really for me. So,
Not fair. Did you go to Germany or anything?
we as a band, there's 5 people in the band, and we got 4 tickets.
Right.
For for one game, and so I was the one who didn't go.
Oh, fair enough, mate.
I was like, not asked. I wasn't asked. Steve went. Steve loved it, and I think Eric went as well.
Yeah, we actually drove to that World Cup for just to stay in the campsite. Didn't even go to the game, but
We
that's
went
youth.
we went to Germany with Radio One and did some some radio stuff with them. But no, I never went to any of the games.
Is there anywhere abroad that you've gone down particularly well, out of interest?
Yeah, Thailand.
All right.
Yeah, it was absolutely mental. One of our songs, "You're Not Alone," did really well in Thailand. It was like the second biggest song of the year when "Genie in a Bottle," Christina Aguilera, was the biggest song of that year. And at one point, we had like 3 songs in the top 20 out there, which is
Wow.
mental. We went out there, and it was like uh, we had like a government ambassador and security to get us through the airport, and there's screaming fans, like hundreds of screaming fans, and like a Previa like blacked out to whisk us away. And then they were like all following us in their cars, like chasing us and coming up alongside and taking photos. And it's like being Princess Diana or something, It was like really mental. But I absolutely loved it. It was great. I'd love to go back.
Yeah, that's it. All right, mate. We'll finish with some questions we got on Twitter.
All right.
Chris Olden, with so many anthems, how on earth do they go about deciding on a list for gigs? I guess we kind of touched on that.
Yeah. We sort of covered that, didn't we? It's generally me that decides. I once let the band decide, the rest of the band, and it was a really bad gig. And so from then on, it's like, okay, Danny, you decide. They're all too busy playing their instruments to really get what's working and what's not. I'm sort of like the conduit between the band and the crowd, really. So I'm in the spot for knowing what's going to work and picturing it all in my mind. So I generally decide that.
Ah, okay. And then one from Grant who says, other than being in Embrace, what's your favourite side hustle, collab, or project?
Oh, well, I've been writing for the screen. I do like screenplays with my wife, and we've just got something that's been commissioned by the BBC. So I guess it'd be that. I can't really talk too much about it because it's all hush hush at the moment. But yeah, I'm really excited excited about that. I generally write psychological thrillers, sort of like maybe like a Happy Valley meets a Leftovers sort of vibe. And yeah, that's the thing that I'm most excited about outside of Embrace.
That's it. How did you get into that then? Was it just kind of
It's
meeting the
just
right
something I've
people?
always wanted to do.
Oh, okay.
I started writing a book, um, and it just kept getting longer and longer and longer and longer. I was about 300,000 words in, and the end was further away than when I'd started. And my mate just said, "Why don't you turn it into TV? Because TV is plot, you know." And I always thought it'd be really difficult and complicated, but I bought Final Draft and I just really loved it instantly. It just felt, just really clicked, you know. And it's gone really well, you know. Me and my wife Lauren do it together, and we're sort of the next big thing in screenwriting in England. You know, we've won loads of prizes and got loads of things in development at the moment. So yeah, it's really really exciting.
That's amazing. Look
Yeah,
forward to seeing any of that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, nice one, mate. Then just a couple from me. Like I always ask guests, what was the high point of the early days, and is there anything they do differently?
Okay, so the high point of the early days. Oh, oof. Hmm. The very high point. Um, probably the most distinctive moment is when we mixed All You Good People for the first time, the demo of that. And we were just in the car listening to it thinking, oh my God, this sounds amazing, man. Because before that, it was like a right mess. And Ott, the guy who mixed it, just brought it all together. And I just thought, wow, it's it was so exciting. And I think, what would I do different? Did you say
Yeah, if there's anything, yeah.
anything I'd do differently? I'd probably release different singles and do the songs in a different order. I often have that dream where, like, or I sit in the bath and wonder, like, if I'd write this on the first album, I'd do, condense all the B sides and songs that we'd released and just do like 10 song albums and not release any of the rubbish ones and just put the good stuff out in any order if you wanted to. Like you had, like I had Ashes and All That Remains as well as Refugees and Good People. If I had our entire catalogue and I could just decide how to release it and start all over again, I'd probably release them in a different order. Um,
Ah, okay, that's interesting.
yeah, I often dream about that. Like there's that film in there where that guy, no one knows of the Beatles, and so he writes a song and everybody thinks he's written it, and or sorry, he plays a Beatles song and no one realizes that no one's ever heard of it, and so he gets the privilege of having the entire Beatles back catalogue to surprise the world with. I often think that, like, what would it be like if I had the entire Embrace back catalogue and no one had heard of it, and I could just release it all again in a different order? Wow, what would I do? Um, yeah, so I often think about that, but that's just me being a trained spotter, control freak, I guess.
Okay, mate. Well, new album out in June, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Album out on June the 12th. Then we're doing in stores around that time. Then we've got this sold out gig at the Peace Hall. Then we've got a book, which is the first book involving the five of us. Um, and I'm going
What's that
on.
about then? Is that like a history of the band or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, just like a history of the band, like volume one. Um, and I'm then going out on a spoken word tour to promote the book. I'm doing like this sort of 30 or 40 dates all around the country. So wherever you are, just have a look on the end of your street. I'm sure I'll be playing there. Um, so look up that. You can find that on Facebook, I'm sure. And then we're doing our own tour. Obviously, we're doing all the festivals. Um, yeah, so I was really busy. Like, we we're originally going to release the greatest hits this year, but we've got a new album, so it's like, and it was also like that with the 20th year anniversary. Like the record company wanted to release the greatest hits, like, no, we've got a new album, mate. So we're always sort of thinking about what's over the next hill, and a lot may that continue, you know.
Yeah, is a tour like 30 years of the band kind of thing? Is that kind of a good way of, I don't know, encapsulating it if you want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's something to celebrate. I'm definitely proud of that. But it's not the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning. The thing that gets me out of bed, apart from my fucking 4-year-old coming in at 5:30 and screaming, is yeah, new stuff. New stuff. Always about the new stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, good finishing point, mate.
All right, great.
Yeah, thanks for
I
your
really
time.
enjoyed that, Harry. Like, it's really nice to speak to you.
Cheers, Danny. Hopefully catch you one of your gigs soon, yeah.
Yeah, let me know when it's going out, and I'll get it on all the socials and stuff. And
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll try and do it around the album coming out, yeah.
yeah, brilliant.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Great. All right, speak to you soon. Bye.
See you in a bit. Bye.